In 2025, TikTok exploded with a video claiming a woman landed at JFK Airport carrying a passport from Torenza, a nation that doesn't exist. Who was the woman passport that came from the country called Torenza, the country that does not exist in any world map? The footage felt authentic. The passport looked official, and the internet spiraled when users insisted the Simpsons had predicted it years ago. But there was a catch. None of it was real. This story breaks down the Torenza passport hoax, how AI crafted a flawless deception, and why millions fell for it, revealing how easily the internet turns fiction into fact. The Ebola book on the shelf. How a 1-second on joke became a prediction. At some point during every global crisis, the internet seems to ask the same question. Did the Simpsons predict this too? When the Ebola outbreaks began dominating headlines, that question resurfaced almost instantly. And right on cue, screenshots began circulating as proof. The image was simple, almost boring at first glance. A bookshelf, a few colorful spines, and tucked among them, a title that made people do a double take, Curious George and the Ebola virus. According to viral posts, this single frame from The Simpsons was evidence that the show had foreseen the Ebola outbreak years before it ever happened. It sounded terrifyingly specific. Ebola isn't a vague concept, like a virus or a disease. It's a real name, a deadly one. So when people saw it paired with a beloved cartoon character in a show already rumored to predict the future, the leap felt natural, too natural. But once again, the prophecy vanished under even light scrutiny. The scene in question comes from a 1997 episode titled Lisa's Sacks. In it, Marge flips through a pile of books while cleaning. The camera lingers for barely a second on a shelf that includes the now infamous title. There's no dialogue calling attention to it. No ominous music, no storyline about pandemics or global collapse. It's a background gag, one of hundreds scattered throughout the show. That's where the prediction begins and ends. There is no outbreak in the episode, no foreshadowing, no warning, just a visual joke meant to be glanced at and forgotten. The irony, of course, is that the internet did the exact opposite. What most people sharing the image didn't realize is that Ebola was not some unknown futuristic threat in 1997. The virus was first identified in 1976, more than 20 years before Lisa's Sacks aired. By the time the episode was written, Ebola had already appeared in medical journals, documentaries, and news reports. It wasn't a prophecy. It was a reference. In other words, the joke wasn't predicting anything. It was acknowledging something that already existed. So why did so many people believe it? Part of the answer lies in timing. For many viewers, their first real exposure to Ebola came decades later when outbreaks were covered nonstop by global media. When a disease suddenly dominates the news, it creates the illusion of novelty. People assume it's new simply because it's new to them. That gap between awareness and reality is where misinformation thrives. Then there's the specificity problem. The title Curious George and the Ebola virus sounds absurd, and that absurdity makes it memorable. It feels oddly precise, almost too on the nose, especially when stripped of context. When shared as a cropped screenshot, it looks intentional, as if the writers were sending a message instead of slipping in a joke. Without the surrounding scene, the image loses its original tone and gains a new, more sinister one. Context is everything, and screenshots destroy context. Online, the image circulated without explanation, without the episode title, and without the timeline of Ebola's discovery. Paired with captions like, "They knew," or "How did they predict this?" It invited viewers to draw their own conclusions. And once that seed of suspicion was planted, the Simpsons prediction myth did the rest. By the time the Ebola screenshot went viral, the Simpsons had already been crowned the internet's accidental oracle. So when people saw something strange in the background of an old episode, they didn't ask, "Is this a joke?" They asked, "What does it mean?" The assumption of prophecy came first. Evidence was assembled afterward. That reversal matters. In reality, the Simpsons writers have always drawn from current events, scientific discussions, and cultural anxieties of their time. That's part of what made the show feel relevant. So referencing Ebola in the 1990s wasn't strange. It was topical. The virus had appeared in popular science writing and public health conversations. Turning it into a visual gag was exactly the kind of dark humor the show was known for. Once the screenshot escaped its original setting, it took on a life of its own. Articles, posts, and videos began treating it as a warning sign hidden in plain sight. Some even suggested it proved the writers had insider knowledge. Others framed it as yet another example of the show's uncanny foresight. Very few stopped to ask a much simpler question. Was Ebola already known at the time? When fact-checkers did step in, the answer is clear. Ebola had been documented, studied, and named long before the episode aired. The so-called prediction wasn't a glimpse into the future. It was a reference to the past. And the internet did it again with Charlie Kirk's death. The Simpsons effect. How fake memories, AI, and nostalgia rewrote reality. The Simpsons effect. How fake memories, AI, and nostalgia rewrote reality. Once the Torenza story gained momentum, what if I told you The Simpsons might have predicted a woman arriving at JFK Airport with a passport from a country that doesn't even exist? The internet did what it always does best. It went hunting for proof. And almost immediately, evidence began to surface. Screenshots appeared showing Homer and Marge standing in an airport terminal. Another image showed a woman in a pink jacket handing over a passport stamped Torenza. In yet another, Lisa Simpson stared at a glowing map where the mysterious country should have been, her expression frozen in cartoon disbelief. To a casual viewer, it all looked convincing. The art style matched. The colors felt right. The scene seemed familiar, like something you half remember from a late-night rerun years ago. And that was the trick. None of those images were real. Every single one was an AI-generated fan edit carefully stitched together by splicing Simpsons characters into recreated backgrounds. The details were close enough to bypass suspicion, especially for people already primed to believe the story. But the real Season 6, Episode 10 of The Simpsons, titled Grandpa versus Sexual Inadequacy, has nothing to do with airports, passports, or travelers from non-existent nations. It's a lighthearted episode about Homer and Grandpa trying to sell a homemade aphrodisiac tonic. No government agents, no vanishing woman, no parallel universes hiding between commercial breaks. So why were people so quick to accept the connection? The answer lies in what's often called the Simpsons prediction effect. Over the years, The Simpsons has built a near mythical reputation for predicting the future. Fans point to moments that seem to foreshadow real events. Donald Trump's presidency, smartwatches, video calls, autocorrect failures, even major corporate mergers like Disney and Fox. The list gets longer every year, shared endlessly in memes and YouTube compilations. But here's the less exciting truth. Most of these predictions are coincidences or reinterpretations. The show has aired more than 700 episodes across 3 decades, touching on politics, technology, pop culture, economics, and human behavior. When you cast a net that wide, it's inevitable that some jokes will eventually resemble reality. The remarkable part isn't that The Simpsons predicted the future. It's that the internet keeps rewriting the past to make it seem like it did. The fake Torenza episode is a perfect example of that phenomenon in action. It didn't rely on facts. It relied on nostalgia. There's something powerful about seeing familiar yellow faces react to a story you just watched online. It creates an instant sense of trust. Your brain fills in the gaps. You don't ask, did this really happen? You ask, how did I miss this episode? And once that question forms, the illusion has already won. This is the new frontier of misinformation. It doesn't need official sources or hard evidence. All it needs is emotional resonance. If something feels like it belongs to your childhood, your guard drops, and AI, unlike earlier forms of digital manipulation, is exceptionally good at exploiting that feeling. At that point, the Torenza story stopped being about a fake country or a mysterious passport. It became something much bigger and much more unsettling because the real mystery wasn't geographical. It was psychological. The Torenza passport didn't challenge maps or databases. It challenged perception. It showed how easily our shared sense of reality can be edited, reframed, and replaced by convincing video paired with a familiar cultural reference. We're now living in an era where AI can fabricate not just images, but entire narratives, complete with fake sources, fake memories, and even fake nostalgia. Decades ago, a successful hoax needed grainy photos, questionable eyewitnesses, and a lot of imagination. Today, it needs 30 seconds of video and an algorithm trained on what we already trust. That's the difference. The tools have changed, but the human impulse hasn't. And that's what made the Torenza incident so effective. It wasn't just about a disappearing traveler. It was about the realization that anyone, anywhere, can now create a world that looks completely real and release it into the bloodstream of the internet. That idea is unsettling, but it's also fascinating. It forces us to rethink how we define truth in a digital age where realism is no longer proof. The Torenza story also serves as a warning wrapped in entertainment. It's a preview of how myths will evolve in the AI era. They won't arrive as ghost stories or UFO sightings anymore. They'll arrive as news clips complete with lower thirds, serious anchors, and archival footage that never existed. And hovering over all of it is The Simpsons, the accidental oracle of modern culture. The show has become so deeply embedded in our collective psyche that it now acts as a reference point for reality itself. When something strange happens, the question isn't, is this real? It's, did The Simpsons predict this? That's how far the myth has gone. In the case of Torenza, the show didn't predict anything at all. Instead, it was used as validation, a familiar stamp of credibility slapped onto a fabricated story. So what does all of this mean? Maybe The Simpsons didn't predict Torenza. Maybe Torenza predicted us. A world so entangled in technology, nostalgia, and viral storytelling that it struggles to tell fact from fiction. A world where every clip feels half real, half simulated. The real mystery isn't the passport, the airport, or the woman who supposedly vanished. The real mystery is why so many people wanted it to be true. Because if Torenza existed, then maybe the world still had hidden corners, uncharted places, secrets left to uncover. And in an age where algorithms know what we want before we do, that idea is incredibly tempting. The Torenza incident will eventually fade like most viral hoaxes, but the pattern it revealed isn't going anywhere. Fake news clips can fool millions. Cartoons from the 1990s can be reshaped into modern prophecies. And truth, once considered solid, now feels flexible. There was no secret episode from 1994, no vanishing traveler. But there are stories like this still floating around on the internet. The $9 illusion. How The Simpsons' most famous prediction was built after the fact. If there's one image that cemented The Simpsons as the internet's favorite time-traveling prophet, it's the so-called 9/11 prediction. You've probably seen it before. Lisa Simpson stands holding a magazine. To her left, the Twin Towers rise in the background. To her right, bold text reads 9. Put together, the image appears to scream 9/11, as if the show quietly warned the world years in advance. It's eerie, it's unsettling, and it's completely misleading. According to the viral claim, a Simpsons episode from the late 1990s predicted the September 11th terrorist attacks with shocking precision. The implication is clear. The writers somehow knew, or worse, they were hinting at something the public wasn't meant to understand yet. Once the image resurfaced online after 2001, it spread like wildfire, shared endlessly as proof that The Simpsons had crossed the line from satire into prophecy. But when you rewind the tape, literally and historically, the illusion falls apart. The image comes from a 1997 episode titled The City of New York versus Homer Simpson. In the actual scene, Lisa is holding up a travel brochure advertising New York City. The cover reads $9, promoting a cheap bus tour or vacation deal. The Simpsons, a fake country, and the AI hoax that fooled the internet. The Simpsons haven't just made us laugh for decades. They've quietly become part of how the internet understands reality. Everyone knows the show. It's the longest-running animated series in television history. A cultural fossil that somehow never stopped evolving. On the surface, it's satire, slapstick humor, absurd storylines, and a dysfunctional yellow family stumbling through everyday life. But beneath the jokes and chaos, there's something else. Something that keeps slipping out of the script and into real-world conversations. Set in the fictional American town of Springfield, a name Matt Groening famously chose because it's everywhere, The Simpsons mirrors a strange version of America. It's modern in its problems, but old-fashioned in its structure. Two married parents, kids under one roof, extended family, still alive and present. It's the 1950s family model dropped into a late capitalist media-saturated world. And somehow this odd mix has made the show feel timeless and to many fans prophetic. You probably felt it at least once. You're scrolling online, you see a headline, and someone comments, "The Simpsons predicted this." At first, it feels like a joke. Then you see the clip, then another one, and suddenly you're wondering if the writers are time travelers, secret insiders, or distant cousins of Nostradamus. Are they predicting the future, or are we retrofitting reality to match a cartoon? That question sits at the heart of one of the strangest viral stories of 2025, the case of the Torenza passport. The story didn't explode right away. Like most modern myths, it began quietly with a single TikTok upload. The video looked like a legitimate news broadcast, polished graphics, tense background music, and a serious anchor speaking in that familiar breaking news cadence. The lower third banner read, "Mysterious traveler detained at JFK." The footage showed airport security officers surrounding a woman who appeared calm, cooperative, and completely out of place. She held out a sleek blue passport embossed with a gold emblem. Across the front, in clean official lettering, were the words Republic of Torenza. The camera lingered just long enough for viewers to notice the details. Holograms, entry stamps, visa pages filled with markings from multiple countries. It looked flawless, better even than some real passports. According to the narration, customs officials were baffled when they ran the passport through international databases. Nothing came up. Torenza didn't exist. The report claimed the woman explained that Torenza was a small island nation located somewhere between Japan and Dora. That raised even more questions. There is no country called Dora. There never has been. When officials checked the coordinates she allegedly provided, they pointed to nothing but open ocean. The video escalated quickly. The woman was reportedly detained overnight for questioning. Her documents were seized for analysis. Then came the hook, the part that pushed the story from odd into unsettling. By morning, she was gone. No name, no fingerprints, no record she had ever been there. The anchor closed the segment with a chilling line. Officials remain unsure where the traveler came from or where she went. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. Reddit threads dissected each frame like a Zapruder film. TikTok creators filmed dramatic reenactments, whispering theories into their cameras. Hashtags like Torenza, glitch in a matrix, and traveler from nowhere surged across platforms. YouTube channels that specialize in mysteries and the paranormal rushed out videos with titles like The Woman from Torenza, proof of a parallel universe. But the moment that truly detonated the story came when someone made a single post. It was a side-by-side comparison. The viral airport clip next to what was claimed to be a still from The Simpsons. According to the post, Season 6, Episode 10, aired in 1994, featured a scene where a woman arrived in the United States carrying a passport from Torenza, a country that didn't exist. The claim spread instantly. Screenshots circulated. Threads multiplied. The coincidence was too perfect to ignore. 31 years apart, same fictional country, same impossible passport. For many people, that was enough. After all, The Simpsons had predicted things before. Those claims, whether exaggerated or not, had built a kind of cultural credibility. So, people who had initially dismissed the Torenza video suddenly hesitated. Maybe this time it really meant something. There was just one problem. The Torenza passport never appeared in The Simpsons. Not once. The scene didn't exist. The screenshot was fake. And the viral story, impressive as it looked, wasn't real either. Fact checkers and independent researchers eventually unraveled the illusion. The airport footage was traced back to stock video libraries, the kind used in travel documentaries and promotional content. The passport images came from a 3D design forum where a digital artist had uploaded them months earlier as a concept render. Even the news anchor's voice turned out to be synthetic generated using AI voice cloning software. When analysts enhanced the video frame by frame, the cracks became obvious. Reflections bent unnaturally. Shadows didn't line up. Text blurred into nonsense when paused. Faces blinked just a fraction too late. It wasn't a supernatural mystery. It was a technological one. An AI-generated composite designed to look just real enough to bypass skepticism. Still, the story felt familiar. That's because it wasn't new. The Torenza myth closely mirrored an older legend, the man from Terd. In a story dating back to the 1950s, a man allegedly arrived at Tokyo's Haneda airport with documents from a country that didn't exist. He was detained, questioned, and placed under guard, only to vanish overnight from a locked hotel room. Historians have long dismissed the Tory tale as fiction, but it survived for decades in paranormal books and conspiracy circles. Torenza was the same story upgraded for the digital age. Same structure, same mystery, new tools. And that's the part that matters. People didn't believe the Torenza story because they're gullible. They believed it because it scratched a deep human itch. In a world where satellites map every inch of the planet, and answers are a click away, mystery feels rare. Stories like this offer a brief escape, a reminder that maybe not everything is known, cataloged, or explained. Every era has its myths. The 1800s had sea monsters. The 1950s had UFOs. The 1980s had time travelers. The 2020s have artificial intelligence. Our myths have evolved from blurry photographs to pixel-perfect simulations. The Torenza passport looked real because it was built with the same tools used to make blockbuster movies, commercials, and news graphics we already trust. When fiction becomes indistinguishable from journalism, even skeptics start asking, what if? And then, of course, there is the final ingredient, the one that sealed the story into internet folklore, The Simpsons. Whether the show predicts the future or simply reflects it, its reputation made the lie stronger. It gave the hoax a familiar anchor, something people already believed in. In the end, Charlie Kirk's death and The Simpsons prediction, that wasn't. In September 2025, the world witnessed something real and tragic. Charlie Kirk, a 31-year-old conservative political activist and the founder of Turning Point USA, was fatally shot while speaking at an event at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. The assault occurred around midday on September 10th during the opening of his American Comeback Tour, leaving Kirk critically wounded and later pronounced dead at a hospital. Authorities quickly identified and arrested a suspect, 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson, who has since been charged with aggravated murder and other serious counts in connection with the shooting. The incident dominated headlines and social media alike. Videos taken by bystanders showed Kirk speaking under a tent just moments before a single rifle shot rang out, creating chaos in the packed courtyard of UVU, where about 3,000 people had gathered. For many, that day was more than a news event. It became a flashpoint in America's ongoing struggle with political violence, security at public events, and the emotions that follow such a loss. The reactions poured in from all sides, from statements condemning the violence to collective mourning, including a large memorial service held later in September, where tens of thousands gathered to honor Kirk's life and legacy. But as the nation tried to grapple with what had happened, something strange happened online. The rise of a bizarre legend tied to none other than The Simpsons. Almost immediately after reports of Kirk's killing spread, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, and other platforms lit up with a different kind of evidence. Clips and screenshots claiming to show a scene from The Simpsons that appeared to depict a cartoon version of Kirk's assassination. According to believers the episode, some said a treehouse of horror segment. Others claimed a forgotten special showed a yellow-skinned figure resembling Kirk at a podium when a gunshot rings out and the scene abruptly cuts to black. Before long, people on both sides of the internet were arguing over whether they actually remembered the scene or whether it was a lost episode. Some swore they had seen it years ago. Others insisted it was proof that the show had foretold Kirk's death. In the chaotic swirl of misinformation and conspiracy, the fake clip became a talking point just as heated as the political fallout from the shooting itself. Here's the twist. No such Simpsons clip ever existed. Despite thousands of posts and screenshots, no actual episode, official scene, or cataloged animation has been found anywhere in the show's extensive history that depicts this event. And numerous fans and fact-checkers who combed through the series confirmed nothing matches the viral images. The scene being shared online is almost certainly AI-generated or fan-made content stitched together to look convincingly like The Simpsons' iconic animation style. And yet, the surreal thing is this. Whether the clip was genuine barely mattered to many people. For a notable slice of viewers, the perception of a Simpsons prediction became, in its own way, a kind of truth. This moment highlights a fascinating cultural shift. We live in a world where memes and AI-generated content can blur into actual historic events in the public imagination. A tragic assassination that really happened collided with a fabricated cartoon prediction and became part of a broader mythos about how we interpret media, memory, and meaning. The Simpsons didn't foretell Charlie Kirk's death, but in the minds of some, the belief that it did became its own kind of narrative. One that spread as fast as the real news of that September afternoon. the fake COVID-19 predictions. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to click on one of the cards on the screen to watch another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.